The Fed is capable of destroying the US dollar, and if you are here for the truth, allow me to be upfront. The Fed is making the destruction of the US dollar their permanent policy. Even Allen Irrational Exuberance Greenspan said that QE3 wouldn't happen because it would erode the value of the dollar. It's already in the history books. Let's dig deep. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's talk about QE4. Everyone has been speculating when it will all happen. It's inevitable. And what will their policy tools be? Well, they're already using what they call forward guidance, also known as just saying they're going to do something, not actually taking any action. Then they have QE, which of course we've seen trillions of dollars being printed and handed all around the world. And then we have interest rates, and they've brought them all the way down to zero. There is the expectation that they could go into the negative, so we'll see how that pans out. But could there be another program that they want to institute? Well, let's first look at this. This article here out of Reuters is actually talking about the Japanese central bank, the ECB, and also mentions the Fed. So let's cover a few points from this excellent article. What we have seen since 2007 is a half-baked and half-hearted structural reforms that does not help supporting inflation expectations, that has helped entertain disinflationary expectations. And they make a big deal about this, suggesting the fact that, look, you're not doing it right. You are not handling this problem correctly. In fact, what you're doing is not printing enough money, and you're not destroying the currency quick enough. That's what they try to suggest. The Bank of Japan governor said he is in regular talks with the Japanese prime minister about opening Japan to more immigration, something that they're generally not fond of, and other politically sensitive changes needed to improve potential growth, currently estimated at only 1% annually. Now, what I would say is that in every single recession, you see the same talk happening all the time from the government, and that is, we need more growth. We need more growth. Why? Because they can't fix the problems. They're not going to cut back in any way. And the most important factor is growing their way out of this mess. And they've done it time and time again. Of course, not real growth, but, unsustainable printed growth. They've done that. And they've been able to devalue the currency to a point where everything appears to be worth more to the untrained eye, who doesn't know the difference, that $1 bill simply doesn't buy what it used to not too long ago. And they just won't realize that. Quite frankly, they will not ever realize that. So let's understand the truth about that. Let me just cover another point from here. Janet the felon Yellen, devoted the final page of her keynote talk on possible monetary policy reforms to a list of fiscal and structural policies she feels would help the economy. Now, a lot of times what I see is the Fed points fingers at the government and the government points fingers at the Fed. It's saying, look, you're not doing enough on your side. Blame it on them. Blame it on them. They keep doing this back and forth. Meanwhile, real problems are not being solved. Fiscal policy was not on the formal agenda, but it was a steady part of the dialogue as policymakers thought through policies for a post-crisis world. Well, that isn't the case right now because, of course, the crisis is on at this time. There's much more in the article. Let's move on right here to another article. And this right here, to me, is huge. It's a policy being applied in Europe at this time, and I can't believe, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that I can't believe it. I mean, I expected it to happen, but to actually read it and There's no uproar, and it is celebrated. Let's just cut to the chase. Fed officials at a 3-day conference said they needed to consider new policy tools for use down the road. That will happen soon enough. Let me get my little pencil out here. Down the road, such as raising the inflation target, meaning allowing them to print more money right away, QE4. But what about this? What about this potential for QE4? Fed purchases of non-government backed assets like corporate debt. Imagine this, just imagine. Everyone's government-friendly companies like Walmart, Facebook, Google, Apple, anything down the line. Perhaps some defense contractors, who knows? And suddenly they are not doing so well and they're hemorrhaging money. Well, all they'll need to do is just issue a whole bunch of corporate debt and they'll get it off their hands. They could buy up everything. Google could buy up all the robots it needs. And then the Federal Reserve will print money out of thin air and buy up all that debt. And this is the solution to their problems. They will do this. It may not be the only thing they do, but this looks like this will be the next plan. And of course, it's not directly printing up money and then giving it to banks all around the world. This is a different set of printing money, and the people will not know the difference. This is a way to transfer money from currency, from the individual citizen over to the globalists. And it's working so well. They just keep instituting new policies, but it's all the same crap. Such ideas would test the limits of political feasibility. No, it wouldn't. And some would need congressional approval. They don't need that. In fact, Leon Panetta said, we'll come to you, maybe, and tell you we're going to go to war. So they don't need congressional approval. That's fake. The view within the Fed is that it could take effort to win over a public already skeptical about the unconventional policies that the Fed undertook during the last crisis. And the truth is that, as I said, they will go about this new way, that they will buy up corporate debt and they'll buy up billions and billions. But the people don't know the difference. They don't even know what corporate debt is. They don't know, they don't understand, and they will allow it to happen. Policymakers think these new tools might be needed in an era of slower economic growth, and potentially giant and long-lasting trove of assets held by the Fed. And they're convinced the time to vet them is now, while rates look to be heading up. Central banking is in a brave new world. And who said those words? The Atlanta Fed president. Can you believe it? So what we're seeing here is that instead of fixing the problem, they're just going to apply ultimately, foundationally, the same crap over and over again. 4.5 trillion on the balance sheet. And you think for a second that they're going to stop expanding that? Not a chance. This article is actually about the US giving up control over the internet. And although one individual country holding the keys in this way, of course it's not the case, but that's not a good idea. You would want to have as much oversight as possible, but I'm very, very skeptical and do not approve of this at all to give it to the UN, a supranational organization which is consistently stealing liberty. We have seen what they're capable of with all of the slavery and trafficking that they do. Without getting into it, I get a little upset when I read about that. Done a couple videos on it. And everything that they do is wrong for the most part. But the article also gets into the same issue we've been discussing here, and that is about the meeting at Jackson Hole. Janet Yellen's statement that the Fed now considers QE bond buying to be a routine part of its toolkit to keep unemployment low. It has not worked so far because you look at the actual amount of employed people, and yet they'll keep it part of their toolkit. That means QE4 is coming. And what will it do? Well, it's just going to have to go in this cycle of more and more and more money printing. They're going to go ahead, and it even says here it's following in the footsteps of the ECB buying a swath of corporate bonds. This will plunge the Fed even deeper into favoring some parts of the economy over others. That's exactly the way it works. That's all of what big government's about. It's about taking the money from you, the citizen, not being able to decide which things are good or not. Let's just say, for example, very simple example of, do you want to purchase your goods from Costco or Walmart? And let's say everybody loved Costco more. So everybody was buying at Costco, but you had a few friends in the government who were previously with Walmart, the CEOs and this and that. So the government decides to essentially, when the economy's tough, bail out and throw billions of dollars that way towards Walmart. Well, then Costco may in fact end up out of business, and suddenly everybody has to shop at Walmart because there's no competition. Well, look at that. The way this works, it's the same with the car companies, it's the same with all the banks. Leaving out the little guy and squashing the competition, and it works so very well for them, not for the individual, that's for sure. All right, let's look at this here. Last but not least, Japan's Hail Mary at Fukushima, an underground ice wall. That's right, in yet another ridiculous scheme to stop the chaos that's still happening, that's not being discussed. And they're saying that, look, they have significantly reduced the amount of radioactive water that's pouring into the ocean. All right? Significantly, they said. And, I mean, another scheme, and all they need to do is publicly admit it is an epidemic, a pandemic, whatever you want to call it, a serious disaster that's going on still to this day. I don't know the full effects of it. There are websites dedicated to it that go into detail about it. I'm sure many of you have looked at those, and you see all of these experts come out, these scientific experts who know what's going on, the details, and they're saying this is worse than Chernobyl. This is damaging the ecosystem permanently. And yet, as long as they keep it under wraps, as long as they say, don't worry, we have it under control, it can't escalate, so that you have real agencies who actually do their job sometimes, whether it's, other governments who would come to the aid and everything else. But no, they don't do that. They say everything is fine, shut up, don't look over here, media, get out of here, don't look at this, we have it under control. And meanwhile, everyone is getting hurt. And this goes for every single industry. The media keeps things under wrap. This is what this is all about right here at the Money GPS. I intend on doing what I can in my own way to bring this kind of information to light. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. Head over to Amazon where they have a look inside feature. That's where you can actually flip through the book to see if you like it for yourself. Take care.